How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about the Steam Deck. And in today's video, we're talking about straight up that Valve is the future of gaming, whether Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony want to admit it or not. SteamOS is the future and you should get in on it now. The thing that's inspiring this video is the process I had playing Cyberpunk 2077 on my brand new Switch 2. I went to Target, I got in line, I bought it, there was like 20 available, I brought it home, I popped the game in, and I immediately downloaded my save from the Steam Deck, and I got the exact same experience in the game that I've been having for 3 years on the Steam Deck. And that really got me thinking about where we're going with console gaming. I'm just going to say it, they're all just PCs with different storefronts. They all use x86 architecture, they're all using AMD chips except for the Switch, which is using an NVIDIA chip. They all have the same upscalers as PC, whether it's FSR or DLSS. For all intents and purposes, when you buy a game on any of these three consoles, you're just playing a PC game, whether you know it, like it, or not. And I think people are starting to catch on to this because there's one similarity between the launch of the PS5, the Series X, and the Nintendo Switch 2, and it's that they don't feel new anymore. They all feel like pro console upgrades to the last generation. The graphical leap between the PS4 and the PS5, or the Switch and the Switch 2, or the Series X and the One X, or whatever you want to call it, I don't like their naming structure, is so much smaller that it's barely perceivable compared to even the PS3 to the PS4, the 360 to the Xbox One, and the Wii U to the Nintendo Switch. Like, there was still a noticeable improvement in graphics from those consoles to their new iterations. The difference between the PS4 and the PS5 is marginal at best. And when you look at the game selection, yes, Nintendo is holding out on exclusives for as long as possible, but they're becoming fewer and fewer and farther in between. I mentioned Nintendo's the holdout, but PS5 is putting their games on PC, and they're also putting some like Horizon Lego Adventures or whatever it was called on Nintendo Switch. So the point is, the line is being blurred to the point of being imperceivable, in the sense that there really isn't that exclusivity that would really make you want to own a console like it did back in the day. Like when I was a kid, if you wanted to play Halo, you bought an Xbox. If you wanted to play Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank, Uncharted, or Jak and Daxter, you bought a PlayStation. If you wanted to play Mario, you bought a Nintendo console. Nowadays, the console you buy is completely dictated by how many games you own on the previous console. If you were looking at an Xbox Series X or a PS5, if you looked at gameplay from either console, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. You could show someone footage of Cyberpunk on a Series X and PS5 and ask them which is which. There's no way they'd be able to tell the difference. Of course, they'd be able to tell the difference between that and the Switch 2 because it's a handheld, but the point is, the games that they're playing are all largely the same. The Switch is a little bit different because there were games from third-party publishers specifically made for it because of the power discrepancy, specifically games like Mario vs. Rabbids, the Switch port of Diablo 3, Astral Chain. There's a big list of games that were only available on the original Nintendo Switch. They were true exclusives that would incentivize you to buy that console. But with the Switch 2, it's a lot different. I know everyone loves to say Nintendo's audience is like 15-year-olds and kids, but if you look at the actual data, it's people my age, 32-year-olds, and that is reflected in the launch lineup. Yes, there's games like Mario Kart World that appeal to families, but on the other end, you've got games like Elden Ring, you've got Cyberpunk 2077, you've got the From Software exclusive The Duskbloods, which looks like Bloodborne, you know, it's an M-rated game. There's definitely way more games that skew towards an older audience at launch on the Switch 2 than there are games that are made for kids, and that's because the audience is grown up and wants to play those games on this handheld. Like if they invested in the Switch ecosystem and don't have a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X where they built up a huge library, they're a prime candidate to rebuy these games and be charged $70 for the privilege of playing a 5-year-old game with Cyberpunk 2077. And with the launch of SteamOS, being able to install it on consoles like the ROG Ally, the Ally X, the Legion Go, having it on the Legion Go S from launch, or if you bought a Windows version, you can just install it there. Of course, having the Steam Deck, if you have a desktop PC, you can install SteamOS on that if you've got an AMD GPU and CPU. My question for you is, why aren't you just jumping ship and starting to build a Steam library, man? Like, it's crazy. What's going to happen to your games if Sony goes bankrupt? They're gone. What's going to happen to your games if Xbox goes bankrupt or Microsoft gets out of the game altogether? They're gone. What's going to happen to your games if, God forbid, Nintendo goes out of business? They're gone. I mean, if you have them and you have the hardware, you can probably play them for at least a few years, but if that hardware dies, the prices on buying new ones to replace it are going to shoot through the roof because it's going to be hard to find, and then you're going to be stuck with all these games that you cannot play. However, if you just buy a Steam Deck and start building out your Steam library with all their different sales that sell games way way cheaper than you'll ever see them on console, you can rest assured that you will have access to those games forever. I can download the copy of Left 4 Dead 2 I bought with my friends back when I was in high school when that game came out on all of our MacBooks that we installed Windows on. We bought that game day one, and I can go on my Steam Deck right now and download that game and run it at higher settings than I was able to run it on my MacBook. And they're not charging me $10 for the upgrade or anything like that. It's the original game I bought way back in 2008? My copy of Elden Ring that I bought day one, downloadable on my Steam Deck. I can just play it with my save that I started way back when that game came out. My copy of Cyberpunk 2077 that I bought way back in 2020, I want to say, that's the same copy I can still play now on my Steam Deck. So if Valve makes a Steam Deck 2, that same game I bought on my gaming laptop back when it came out, that's the game I'm going to be able to play. I could buy a console in 5 years from Valve if they do make a Steam Deck 2 or 3 or whatever, and I don't need to buy new games for it because I have access to my entire Steam library in perpetuity forever. And whereas if any of these other companies go out of business, their games disappear, Valve has been very clear that there is a contingency in place that if they were to disappear by some weird chance or something like that, that all of the games would become DRM free and you would just own them. You can even take it one step further on PC and download GOG and access that just fine on your Steam Deck and just buy a game on there and just get a DRM free copy. You can install it on anything you want once it's downloaded forever. That is your copy of a game. And even for basic things like a controller navigatable operating system, that's there whether you're on Windows or SteamOS, it doesn't matter. You can use big picture mode on your TV with a Windows PC. I've been doing that with Elden Ring. It works great. I'm able to accept invites, chat with friends, use the store, activate games in my library, do anything I could do with the mouse and keyboard with a controller because of that console style interface. When I'm on SteamOS, it works the exact same way. I can just use the built-in controls just fine and it works as if it was a console, but I also get the added benefit that you don't get on console, which is I can go to the desktop, add Chrome, add whatever I want, and use it like an actual PC at any point, and it's encouraged. They say, yeah, we included desktop mode that should be easy to figure out if you've ever interacted with a computer before. Go nuts, customize the hell out of this thing. If something breaks, I can take it apart. I can order a new part from iFixit. It'll be here in 2 days. I can replace it myself. If my Switch 2 breaks and I take the back off and I move one thing wrong, the thing is bricked forever. By some digital software update Nintendo can push to it that just effectively kills the console, and I'm out $450. Even doing simple basic things like playing games online, that is completely free on Steam and has been forever and will continue to be free going into the future. On PS5, you need PS Plus. On Xbox, you need Game Pass Core, I think is what it's called. And on Nintendo, you now need Nintendo Switch Online. So you already pay for an internet service. You then have to pay again to use a feature that is just baked into your console. That's crazy. I used to be obsessed with getting new hardware because hardware was actually meaningful. You would see a noticeable improvement no matter what if you jump from the PS2 to the PS3. But these days, it's like updating one component in your PC. It's not the same thing. I've come to the point where the only thing that matters to me is getting access to my games whenever I want to have access to them and being able to play them on any device I want and have my save available on what device that is. And that is the service that Steam offers. You don't get that on PlayStation. If you don't pay for PlayStation Plus, your save is locked to your console. And if you get rid of your console and you don't transfer it to a USB stick, that save is completely gone. You need to pay to upload your saves, which are like a megabyte each, to a cloud, and then download them to your new PlayStation console if and when that comes out. The same thing goes for Switch. If you don't transfer your data from your Switch 1 to your Switch 2 and you don't pay for Nintendo Switch Online, sorry, all your saves are gone. I'm pretty sure Xbox has it for free, I'm just not sure, but even when it comes to save transferring between Xbox and PC, the only way to do it is with apps. So if you use the Xbox app, you can transfer between Forza Horizon 5 Xbox version and PC version. If you have it on Xbox and Steam, you can't do it. If you have it on Xbox and PS5, you can't do it. But with a lot of third-party games, you can transfer between any console and Steam, and that even works on Switch too. Like I mentioned earlier, I downloaded my save for Cyberpunk 2077, jumped right back in where I was on my Steam Deck just fine. So imagine having that feature with literally every game, and you can access your saves on any piece of hardware you want. I get that people have nostalgia, I get that people have brand loyalty for their hardware, but the best brand loyalty to have with hardware is to not have brand loyalty with hardware. You should have brand loyalty to platforms at this point because everything is just careening towards a future where it is just a platform. And Steam has been ahead of the curve by decades since the day it came out because they saw the future where every game was going to be downloadable, and they should probably have all these systems in place, like being able to use a controller, being able to use a controller to interact with it, being able to download your saves, having access to a web browser, having access to your games wherever you are, and they're just running laps around the competition at this point. There is no reason games like Cyberpunk 2077 should be $70 in 2025. I don't care what resources had to be put into it to port it to the Switch 2. The maximum it should be is $30. I can walk into a store right now and get a copy of it for $10 on PS4, pop it in my PS5, get the PS5 version for free, and it's a 10 times better experience than I'll get on the Switch 2. The Switch tax is ridiculous, and people need to wake up and fight back. The console tax as a whole is ridiculous. The whole idea of owning your games on consoles are gone. There are a few games that come on Switch carts. The vast majority of them from third parties are going to be game keys where you have to download the game anyway. So why not give yourself the forethought privilege of being able to play that game forever instead of hoping you hang on to hardware that might break and then upgrade in the future to one that's going to be more expensive. You're paying so much more money for arguably a worse experience than you would be if you just got a Steam Deck or installed SteamOS on a desktop PC. Console launches feel different these days because they're PC launches in disguise. You're going to get marginally better performance just like when you upgrade your GPU. You're going to get marginally better performance just like when you upgrade your CPU, because between the PS4 and PS5, Xbox One and Series X, and Switch 2, that's exactly what they're doing. They're upgrading components that get you marginally better performance, and like you could just do that on PC. And I promise you, SteamOS is not hard to learn, and once you figure it out, it's awesome. You're not going to want to go back. So yeah, I'll keep my Switch 2 around until the bitter end, of course, because I want to play games like Mario Kart World, Metroid Prime 4, and Donkey Kong Bonanza. But the second Nintendo starts releasing their games on PC, it's over. And I think there is going to be a day where that happens. So maybe if you're still married to the idea of having a console, you should grab a used Steam Deck. You should grab the cheapest Steam Deck. You should grab the cheapest PC handheld you could find and install SteamOS. And you'll probably save money over the Switch 2 at the end of the day. And in 5 years, when you're playing all your games on that and not even thinking about buying them on console anymore, you're going to come back to this video and type thank you in the comments. Save it because I want to see that thank you. But yeah, guys, my voice is gone. This is the 4th time I've recorded this video. I think I nailed it this time, so we'll see. And just because I appreciate people watching till the end of the video so much, I'm going to give away a copy of Elden Ring Night Reign. All you got to do is DM me on Twitter what your favorite Souls game is out of all of them. It doesn't matter which one it is. I'm not picking favorites. The first person to DM me on Twitter at deck_ready their favorite Souls game will get a Steam key for Elden Ring Night Reign that you can play on Steam Deck because it's awesome. Anyway, guys, as always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.